That's not the kind of equality I want, Chris.
Hey everyone, we're live. I was just talking about falling down the stairs again. If any of our tens of listeners noticed the shiner there, but or I don't know, maybe it was a doorknob.
There's a lot of boxes.
Anyway, should not joke about that. That's real. If you need help, blink twice. But we return after a little break. That just didn't happen, guys. We just did not record last week or yesterday.
That's my fault.
There's really no excuses other than just being like tired.
Dog bone tired.
Life, it got in the way, and it just didn't happen. But we're back, and we have quite a few movies to cover to go ahead and wrap up our James Bond series. But that's okay. We'll get through them.
It's a James Bond speed run here at the end.
Yeah, we've got 2 Moores, 2 Daltons, and 3 Brosnans. But we can do it. I believe in us. We can keep it short and sweet. Besides, if you do listen to this, you should have seen these by now. I mean, I hope. But if not, then please go back and watch them. There's definitely signs of the times. But I am here with Cody. How are you, sir?
I am okay. I did not watch one of these movies. We'll get to it when we get there. But I don't think its quality has improved in the 20 years since it was released. But I think instead of maybe we just do actor, so more Dalton than Brosnan, and we can talk about all of the films just kind of together.
Right. I agree with that. Not only here with Cody, but here with my beautiful wife, who is the floating head off screen. You hear her voice. One of these days, when I get my other setup done,
you will still never see
you'll
my
be able
face.
to see both of us. What was that? That was the win. People just overlook that. You'll be able to see
I'm going to get
of
one of those Riddler masks when I'm finally on camera.
Right.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Just go with V for Renda.
No, I'm not trying to affiliate myself with any.
Speaking of Riddler, it's already happened. It's already happened, guys. I saw it the other day, and I meant to save it, but it was in a DC group, and some guy fashioned himself out of tape a kind of a mask resembling the Riddler's mask from the new Batman movie. And he wrote the little sign on it, and he had that weird voice, and he was going on about the Snyderverse.
Oh yeah, that guy. Well, guess weird. What? The Batman has outdone, I guess, stream-wise on HBO Max than the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Good. I watched it. We watched it together, and I liked it the second time around. It was good. I caught a lot of things that I didn't pick up on. Is it the best? No, but it's damn good. It's up there. I mean, it. I'm sorry, guys. I'd say it, but it's a better Batman than the Snyderverse Batman. I said it. I'm sorry.
Well, they can yell at us later. We can have either the Snyder Bros or the Nolan Bros come after us. But for now,
yes,
we're going to talk James Bond. So let's start with the Roger Moore era coming to an end, maybe in a whimper. I don't know. Some people really have nostalgia for both of these movies. Some people claim they're 2 of the worst Bond movies. So here's my take on Octopussy, the first one of these 2 films. Obviously, the Bond franchise was like, oh, this Indiana Jones stuff seems to be popular. Let's do James Bond kind of as an Indiana Jones movie, which is funny because that's how Lucas got Spielberg to make Raiders of the Lost Ark, was because they would never let Spielberg direct a Bond movie. Other random trivia fact, this movie almost starred James Brolin as James Bond because Roger Moore was going to not return.
Wow.
And when
James
they heard,
Brolin.
there's even footage of him like auditioning as James Bond. Like there's footage of this. But
did he go with the accent or?
I haven't watched it because I'm just kind of flabbergasted that almost happened.
Right.
But Never Say Never Again was rumored to be coming out, and the Bond franchise still scared of Sean Connery and his popularity as the character. We're like, well, Roger, you gotta do this because we can't do a new Bond if Connery's doing like a renegade Bond movie.
Right.
And so Roger Moore comes back. This turns out to be a more popular film than Never Say Never Again, and I will give it that. This is a better movie than Never Say Never Again.
Oh,
but if you,
it is a much better movie, even with two granddad Bonds.
Oh my gosh.
Well, speaking of that, that is the one thing I will say, because we've been joking a lot in these Roger Moore movies that it feels like your grandpa's hanging out with your friends. At least, even though it's still quite an age difference, this one feels like your granddad hanging out with your mom's divorce, like hitting on your mom's divorcee friends. And
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Man.
And jumping ahead, going to A View to a Kill. That is, out of the two of these, I actually like A View to a Kill.
Is it?
And
I'm
not
the
trying
walk
to jump
in?
ahead, but we're yeah, the absurd plot line and the
It feels like the Batman
technology
TV show.
and it does feel kind of like Batman,
like Adam
TV
West
show.
Batman, James Bond.
But we were talking about granddad Bonds. In the wardrobe department did Roger Moore dirty in that movie, and that was his last outing. Now, don't get me wrong.
So did that man dirty, and
80s
not
fashion
to
was
jump.
atrocious anyway. But you look at the members only jackets with the slacks that they have him sneaking around in.
Like a scream undercover cop is what I'm saying, James Bond.
Well, no, they scream retirement home. I mean, if you look at him, and the sidekick that he has, his butler, that's actually another agent, that they have him
who was
sneaking around
John
with him.
Steed from the Avengers, the TV show.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. But I got into the whole granddad thing. But I'm with you. Octopussy does seem more like the plot wasn't. I don't know. Like it was more Russians, and not a huge supervillain. No, I'm sorry. Hang on, we have interruption. Sorry, guys.
Well, I do like Luis Jordan as the Bond villain in Octopussy, and if you don't know who that actor was, most nerds would know him as the villain from Swamp Thing, and he's very good, and I like The Henchman, but this movie is definitely fetishy for even Ian Fleming's sake with all these lady assassins and everything going on.
Oh, the assassin ninjas at the end in those jumpsuits, just it felt very like, don't get me wrong, there's something like really cool, like if she had been written differently, and there's something kind of cool about a whole female led troop of thieves and assassins and warriors and stuff like that. It's just being seduced by Roger Moore, and that takes the cool part of it out.
That is one of the things this movie gets praised for, is they bring Maud Adams back as the title character, Octopussy, who played Christopher Lee's girlfriend in Man with the Golden Gun. And one of the things they praise, even though there's still quite a bit of age difference, it's less than 20 years. So people were like, oh, they cast like a woman, not a girl, opposite this almost 60-year-old man.
Less than 20 years is a pretty low bar, though. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right. Because I looked at it, I was like, okay, what is she, like 10 years younger than Roger Moore? No, it's more like 16 or 17 years younger.
Because let's see. Now that came out in 1983. Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
My birth year. A View to a Kill came out in 85s, and he was 57 in 85.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's still in his mid 50s, and she's, you said what, 20 years younger? So yeah.
She's
the
like
20 years-
not 40 yet. She's like late 30s.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
still that oogie factor,
Well, and that's one of my comments is just when you thought the James Bond franchise was done being racist and sexist, Octopussy says, "Hold my beer. We're not done."
This
Right.
is a long-standing tradition we will not just be throwing out the window.
Yeah, and going to way to show your
Imperialism.
colonization there, going to India and like having your main villain.
Just being white and British in India is offensive
He's
anymore. Stop doing
portrayed
it.
as being Indian,
those
I
people
guess,
alone.
but he's still clearly British.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Very, very.
But I think this
sloppy
is
on that.
this is a solid like Bond adventure, but then I think what ruins this for a lot of people is all the silly crap they throw in this movie. Like Bond does a Tarzan yell.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he's dressed as a gorilla and he's not even being subtle in the scene where like they're talking about when the bomb's gonna go off, and he like looks at his watch. He looks at his
Yeah.
watch.
And his eyes, yeah.
That's
his
what makes
eyes
it
are
feel
glaring
like
on that.
Adam West Batman episode.
Yeah.
And then doesn't he also like go swimming disguised as an alligator?
Yeah, it's
he
a
climbs
little
out of a
alligator sub.
mechanical. Yeah, oh my gosh.
I'm like, because there's cool stuff like that sequence where is it 009 is being chased by those throwing knife twins and he's disguised as a clown. That's a pretty cool chase sequence, and like
It is, but that man as a 00 agent is totally unbelievable.
right? But then of
mean,
course James Bond also dressed up as a clown in this movie.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of ridiculous. And the Air Force security in Germany is really low bar too.
Yeah. But I think it's enjoyable for what it is, but I think had they not went back to, because For Your Eyes Only is like a solid Bond adventure, and then they like, well, it's Roger Moore, we got to go back to the silly stuff.
Right, and you can tell by the last two movies, they were winding down. It was kind of the decline. You could see it. He was getting older.
Well,
he was still in pretty decent shape, and even the directors was like, he could have at least gotten 2 more movies out of him. John Glenn, I believe.
Yeah, he's directing 4 of these movies we're talking about. He did all the 80s Bond movies, but
he wanted to get him back for 2 more movies after View to a Kill.
No. And that is part of, I think, what hurts A View to a Kill is I think Roger Moore is the wrong actor for that movie. I think that movie would work much better with Timothy Dalton as Bond.
Yeah, I could, man, I see that now. And that could have been the third or the first Bond. Actually, I kind of see that one if they would have just left it the way it was and inserted Timothy Dalton. I could have seen that one as the third Dalton movie because he was signed on for 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then disputes after the second one, and they were like, ring, ring, Brosnan, we need you, buddy. Babs.
But didn't we find out that Timothy Dalton was approached in the late 60s?
Yes, he was approached.
And he had to wait that whole time to get 2 movies and then Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
And they wanted Pierce Brosnan earlier than that.
That's
bananas. So 3 of the actors who have played Bond have been approached to play Bond before they ended up taking the role. Roger Moore was approached in the 60s before they went with Sean Connery. Roger Moore couldn't do it because of his TV show. And they approached Timothy Dalton for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and he turned it down saying he was too young at the time. Because he would have been like 22, 23 years old.
Ooh.
Ooh, baby face Bond.
Baby Timothy
Yeah.
Dalton. And then, famously, Brosnan was cast before NBC renewed his contract with Remington Steele, and we got Dalton. But, A View to a Kill. This is a very weird movie. You've got Christopher Walken as the bad guy, which might be the best part of the movie. And
I liked that. I liked his character as a bad guy. And the fact that he, because we're looking at 85, mid 80s, technology, it's right there in the early stages of that technology boom that we got to see and live through. And with computers becoming more mainstream and home appliances. I mean, still in the early stages, but that's what they were hinting at and wanting. And I liked this story because it was an industrial kind of, he wanted to destroy Silicon Valley so he could have full reign over computer chips, which seems, ridiculous to think about today. But when you look at the time, I think it was very cool.
Yeah, you know who they kind of were trying to get to play the bad guy in this, and it makes sense.
I heard it was David Bowie and there was someone else.
Sting. They wanted either David Bowie or Sting, which I get that vibe of what they're going for. And Christopher Walken makes his hair a character in this movie. Like, that was his approach.
Right.
Because he didn't want to do the movie, but his agent's like, well, if you do a Bond movie, you're going to basically be able to do whatever you want for the next 5 years of your career.
Right.
And then he was like, all right, well, I'm going to make my hair part of my vibe against James Bond. Like, are you threatened by my hair? Are you impressed? Are you intimidated by my hair? Also, I don't know what's going on with him and Grace Jones. It's very weird, but also it's the most interesting part of the movie.
Yeah, it's bad when the love story is better on the villain side than Granddad Bond.
No disrespect to the late Tanya Roberts, but for everybody, when we get to A World Is Not Enough that likes the crap on Denise Richards, I give you Tanya Roberts as a geologist is almost as bad, if not worse.
Well, at least she didn't have the last name of Christmas.
Oh
That's true, but this is another Bond movie where they shouldn't have had Bond sleep with the girl at the end of the movie, because before they try to hook up, it almost feels like he's being fatherly to her.
Yeah. And I could just see, Q, did you pack any of those little blue pills that I told you to pack? I might need them.
Can't he just give her a good handshake at the end? Good job well done.
Just icky.
Don't say it. Don't say it on there.
And it's one of the reasons Moore said, I'm out, because when they were making this movie, he found out he's older than Tanya Roberts' mom.
Oh, no.
Mm.
Of course, he also didn't like how violent this movie was. He felt like it was too dark and violent for a Bond movie.
Well, yeah, I did remember seeing a review on that, because Zoran, they just murder everybody in that mine. And yeah, I could see it being a little more violent.
But they still throw silly stuff in this one. The opening is you got this cool score, Bond's retrieving something, and then out of nowhere he's snowboarding to the Beach Boys. Why is that in there?
Yeah.
It's 1985. Are we having nostalgia for the Beach Boys in 1985? I guess it's a few years before Kokomo, right?
Actually, yeah, the Beach Boys had a resurgence in the 80s, and they toured. John Stamos toured with them during the 80s. They were on an episode of Full House.
Yes, I remember that.
They actually, Kokomo, They went back and redid some of the older songs and updated it to the digital with the digital drums and really 80fied it. So yeah, they did have a resurgence in the 80s. I mean, they were back touring, you know. So it doesn't make sense for a Bond movie, but it makes sense for the time that they would sneak it in there because of the resurgence. And plus, you know, you had Duran Duran.
No, the theme song.
Do the theme song,
the
and they were trying to appeal
slaps.
to. Yeah, they were trying to approve to younger audiences, and they had the day glow in the opening sequence, but you just had a 57-year-old Bond, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I like it for it being kind of the last Roger Moore. It wasn't as, I don't think it was as epic as they. I think they should for his last movie. I think they should have brought back some of his younger nemesis, like the over the top volcano lair.
Yeah, if we're gonna be campy, let's camp it up to the end.
Yeah, if this is gonna be his last movie as a granddad, let's go ahead.
The Grand Camp Jubilee.
Let's have him take on a dude that's got a massive island eating yacht or something.
Well, also, why don't we play with the fact that he's older? Why did they not do that? Like, that would have been more interesting too. Like, he's aging.
Like, I'm getting too old for this ish.
Like,
kind of.
Yeah, it's your time to retire. Oh no, one more mission. You know, this is it. This is my last mission.
And this is kind of how I feel. And no disrespect to people who have fond memories or nostalgia for this era, but it's kind of my least favorite era of Bond because, like, I don't really like how silly it gets, and it's very noticeable. Like, the age difference never really bounces back from Bond and the love interest ever. Like, the Connery era is really where they're actually close in age, you know?
Yeah.
But like, they don't really progress the franchise with Roger Moore. It's like they're just kind of doing the same thing and then like taking whatever trend was popular in Hollywood at the time and throwing James Bond in it.
I will say, and I heard this in another review, that I think he had the hardest time as Bond.
Well, of course he did, because
take a look at the first Bond he was in the early 70s. And then he ends his run in the mid 80s. So if you watch his movies in order, it really is kind of like a time capsule. You're watching and each of his movies represent that time period perfectly. You go from bell bottoms and like disco era up to the late 70s, where you've got you throw in some Star Wars in there, and then you end on Dayglow and Duran Duran. So I think he had in each of those periods, I think it had the most critique. It had the most criticism, and I think he had the hardest time being Bond, because you have to adapt to each of those periods.
And he's also having to come in after basically people think the original actor defined the role, and so many people think and still feel like he is James Bond.
Right.
And they were successful, and I'm not disrespecting Roger Moore, because of all I've read and heard about Roger Moore, it sounds like he was a very lovely man in real life. It's just not my cup of tea with these spy movies. Like, it's
like, it does look very silly.
When I want a serious action, like when I want serious Bond, I'll go to the two Daltons or the later films that we just covered, the recent films. Craig. I'll go to those. If I want the cool, retro Bond, of course I'll go to the Connerys. But if I want campy, fun, popcorn, like just over the top, let's see how ridiculous we can get with these. I'll go straight to the Moors anytime.
Yeah, and I have no fault with people who enjoy that. And actually, I don't think most of his movies are enjoyable. Some of them are pretty cringeworthy and eye rolling, but it's just why I appreciate if you're ready, let's get into the Timothy Dalton era, because it feels like, oh wow, they're taking this seriously again. And here's one thing I noticed last time I watched this time I watched Living Daylights, because it's two Bonds back to back where we have Bond wearing a leather jacket, right?
Right.
And it looks so goofy on Roger Moore, but I'm like, okay, Timothy Dalton, yeah, you're wearing that leather jacket. You look cool as hell.
He pulled it off. He could pull off a members only jacket. Like, he was in that demographic for members only. You know,
It felt like the real members.
Yeah, he felt like a real member.
And not a fan club member.
But he's almost 20 years younger than Roger Moore, so he doesn't feel like your grandpa running around spying and fighting.
And they from what I've heard and seen, I've not read these books, but I've heard that he has gotten closer to the source material.
That's what a lot of fans of the novels say. And apparently, while filming these two movies, he would have the books like around and he was reading them, and he wanted to be as accurate to Fleming's portrayal.
Right.
Which is
if you really do, you should take these two movies and then pick two Craig movies and watch them and compare their portrayals, because he's quick to temper. I don't know. They just match really well. And you can kind of see where Craig was, again, like I said earlier, I like to think that he was like, you know what, I'm going to model this portrayal.
Well, I think that's where the reevaluation of Timothy Dalton came into play too, is once the Craig films came out, because for the longest time, I was too young to have seen the Daltons or even know Dalton was Bond, and like they didn't play on cable as much as the Connery and Moores growing up. And I remember people like, oh yeah, Timothy Dalton, he stinks. He's not funny. He's not charming.
How dare.
Yeah.
No wonder he became a Nazi villain in Rocketeer. Like, he's sick of this James Bond back and forth, will we, won't we?
But if you look, like, especially after Octopussy and A View to a Kill, it's refreshing. It really is. It's like Living Daylights felt more James
Bond. It feels more like an espionage thriller, right? Like, because
it
felt, there's not over the top villains. I will say the bad guys are kind of like whatever in this movie, right? They're not really that memorable of bad guys or threatening. Like the henchman's the most memorable Bond villain in this movie,
right?
Who only has that one Pretender single cassette tape, I guess, because it's the 80s.
But you're right. That one did feel more espionage, spy thriller, and License to Kill took a totally opposite direction. Like, it was really different, and I enjoy that. Like, I really did. Like, you got a spy thriller, and then you got like a revenge thriller.
Yeah,
that was not all about, this espionage. And it was. By 89, the trope was kind of played out, but still popular, and that's with the drug kingpin and the drug lord.
Yeah,
cocaine, because that was a huge deal, and it still is. But that was the cocaine and the crack cocaine. Everyone was using that as the bad guy or the villain, and of course, it was played out in Lethal Weapon and Scarface and. I'm sure every other 80s movie, dealt with that. but I liked it. I thought it was refreshing for a James Bond, and it did. It went dark.
Yeah.
That's because they didn't feel like the action sequences were gonna rattle James Bond's bones apart. Like,
yeah. Well, they went more practical. They had
less fantastical.
It was more stunts. Not only that, but you had what was I going to say?
Well, if I could interrupt your thought before we get full into how cool License to Kill is, I wanted to say 2 more things about the Living Daylights. One, I like that it's only one Bond woman and it's a little bit of a love story. And I like that he doesn't automatically try to sleep with her at the beginning of the movie. Like, he does eventually, but like that, he doesn't like automatically go there.
Right.
And I even like the line of when the other guy's getting onto him for not killing the assassin, because I guess Bond already knows something fishy's going on. But he's like, she's not an assassin. I only kill professionals. Like, like I'm like, yeah, that's such a cocky James Bond thing to say, you know, like,
right.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is his code of ethics, right? Like, I'm a murderer, but I'm only going to murder people that are also murderers.
Right.
And like that airplane sequence, you guys seen that somewhere lately or in a video game? Like, this movie is very influential on the Uncharted game series.
Right. And I saw it. It was in Batman too. It was in Dark Knight.
Yeah.
They totally do it with Dark Knight. They do it in, like you said, Uncharted.
Well, Christopher Nolan's a huge James Bond fan. I mean, I guess the one thing that has not aged well in The Living Daylights is the whole Afghanistan stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the 80s, that makes sense because, you know, England and America are over there supplying them weapons to fight Russia.
Looking at you too, Rambo.
Yep, Rambo 3.
Rambo 3, yeah.
But yeah, License to Kill was not very successful here in America. And at the time, people were like, well, why'd they put James Bond in an episode of Miami Vice?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, guys.
Ouch. They actually had to take scenes out of that to give it a PG-13
because of how, and I believe this is the first PG-13 Bond because of how violent it is.
Yeah, they were.
But
they
I mean,
an R.
If you notice, this is the first time an actor played Felix Leiter more than once. It's the same guy that played Felix in Live and Let Die because this whole stuff going on with Felix was actually in the book Live and Let Die, where they like feed him to a shark and all that. And
right, I could see Felix like.
But I can definitely feel why people
they keep getting younger, and I stay the same age.
Oh my gosh.
Critical of this because it also has Robert Davi and that other guy that are in Die Hard.
Oh yeah,
Johnson and Johnson, which that's a questionable casting choice even in 1989. But I do really like Robert Davi as the bad guy because he's just a real bad guy. Like that's what real evil people would do. Like the stuff he's doing, he's not doing like Bond villain stuff. He's like, oh, you double crossed me, I'm gonna kill you.
Right.
Oh, you're in my way, I'm gonna kill you. Like,
yeah, that's what his thing. That's what they were saying was his thing was more about loyalty, and not so much getting rich. I mean, he was already rich, but his thing was more loyalty. Like that was his shtick.
And I mean, they even throw in the whole televangelist stuff that was going on in the 80s in there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree with you. These two movies, especially after the Moore era, these two movies were really refreshing. And man, I'm up there. I'm there for these movies. Like these two movies I could lump these in with the Craig movies as being just really,
really Bond-tastic.
Yeah, Bond-tastic. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I mean, he harpoons a guy. Like, yeah, I like how dark this movie gets. Like, James Bond just gives 2 Fs in this movie. Like, he's gonna get his revenge.
Right.
But he's
Yep.
also kind of being an undercover spy in this one too, which I kind of dig because you hardly see that, even though he's still going around saying I'm James Bond, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
and what was the other thing? Oh, baby Benicio del Toro as a psychotic
Yes.
henchman.
Yep. He was good. He was good in that. He was good
Yeah,
in that.
I
I
think
liked him better in this than I did his cameo in Star Wars, which made no sense. But I'm sorry, that made no sense at all. But anyway, we won't get into that. That's the whole month of May, people. Is I get to talk about how
You save it
Benicio
for
del
May. You
Toro's
save it for May. We're so
character
close.
made no sense in that movie whatsoever. But anyway.
That's a
Back
different.
to you,
That's a
Cody.
different soapbox, Christopher.
That's a different
I
soapbox.
think these are maybe bananas because like the Living Daylights might be like just barely under my top 5, and I think License to Kill is just as good. I think these are 2 of the best Bond movies, and some people might think I'm crazy, but like if you like the Daniel Craig movies, go back and watch these 2 Timothy Dalton movies because they're kind of a test run that I guess the world was just not ready for that yet in the 80s.
Because I mean, you go into Pierce Brosnan, and that's the one that I watched all his movies in the theater, so that was my James Bond growing up. But after revisiting them, you're like, and you mentioned this. We were talking about this at an earlier date. You were like, they just totally went backwards. Like they were making progress with the 2 Daltons, and then they were like, you know what would be good is if we just cast a younger Bond and we go backwards. We go back to the Moore era because that's kind of what they
you kind of have like Connery sets the standard for Bond, right? He sets it's the chin, the chiseled features, the hey ladies, the blowing shit up, swimming around. And then you get Roger Moore, who works the hardest and the longest, but he's falls victim to the material he's given. Yeah. And then you get Dalton, and you're like, all right, serious espionage. This is real spy movies.
Not only is the material, it's the actor. Like they both fit. Like those 2, that's the rare thing is you might have a good Bond, but it may not.
But Bond can't carry it if he's not. Yeah.
But with those 2 movies, with Living Daylights and License to Kill, you have 2 things that work well together, and that's the character that he portrays as Bond and the story, and they work really, really good together. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was agreeing with you. You weren't cutting anything off.
And they give Q a more prominent role in both of those movies, which is fun.
Right, and that's what. And I never. His first name is Desmond, and I never can pronounce his last name. Llewellyn? Maybe so. That's probably Llewellyn. But even he was like, he was my favorite Bond, and these were 2 of my favorite movies as Q to film. And that's kind of sad because it took the late 80s. He was Q from the beginning, and it took the late 80s for him to get 2 movies where he felt that his character really fit, and they gave him more to do. And
never underestimate your tech nerds, is what I'm saying. People want to know their stories too.
And he jived really well with the Bond character. And then he got sent backwards. Like they still had some good moments together with the interaction with Q and Brosnan, but it's like they sent his character back too.
Timothy Dalton looks like he's going to turn into a real life Grinch.
How do we feel about the M in the last 2 Moores and the 2 Daltons? Because he's like the interim M, I guess, between Bernard Lee and Judi Dench.
Say that again?
Robert Brown.
The guy who played M in these 4 films. Who was the admiral in The Spy Who Loved Me. So
he did fun. Like,
yeah.
The earlier M's, Judi Dench is the GOAT. Judi Dench has had the most. oomph and the most character and the most to do. It's like the earlier M's were just there to set things up, move the plot along. This is your mission.
Set it up for James Bond and knock it down.
You know, another thing this Dalton era is a test run for the Craig era is the Moneypenny relationship too. Like her getting more involved in the missions and like having Q go and help Bond. Like they don't really give this actress much to do, but it's kind of a test run of what they would do with the character in the Craig films. Like she's not just the girl in the office with the witty banter.
I like that they're team members instead of like background setting for James Bond to be amazing all the time and everything.
But speaking of the Brosnan era, so, you know, we have a 6-year hiatus because of licensing rights or whatever's going on with James Bond at the time. And by the time we get to GoldenEye, Dalton's done because he doesn't want to do more than one movie. So Brosnan finally gets his chance to be James Bond. It's mega popular. It looks like they're doing something interesting with the franchise. They're kind of commenting on James Bond as a character and like, what does James Bond do in a post-Cold War world? Does James Bond's antics and behavior even function in the 90s? And then after GoldenEye, they're like, well, let's just do what we did in the past, but it's now in the 90s. And Tomorrow Never Dies definitely feels like they're like, well, let's do another Roger Moore, because this feels like a Roger Moore Bond movie just without all this silly stuff in it, right?
Right.
Like, they basically were like, well, what if Rupert Murdoch, well, I say what if, it might be actually true, but what if Rupert Murdoch was an evil man who just wanted global domination?
Right. You know, back when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's, you know, I guess when I was younger, I kind of liked it.
I definitely enjoyed this more as a 12-year-old than I did as a 36-year-old man and before seeing other Bond movies. Right. But also I had Terry Hatcher in it, so 12-year-old Cody was like, yeah, Terry Hatcher.
Yeah.
Lois Lane, come on.
Yeah, I remember because I was a big fan of Superman, The Adventures of Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was all about the Terry Hatcher. Yeah, but I after revisiting it, I don't know. I wasn't really as thrilled about it. Like, it's still fun. I still consider it kind of a popcorn movie. It's all right. But I just kept hearing people scream, well, that's fake news. It's fake news in the background. You know, it just dredged up a lot of stuff that maybe didn't have any relation to the movie, but I just felt the last couple of years kind of turned me off of any kind of storyline like that. You know what I mean?
Right. I will also say Michelle Yeoh is too badass to be James Bond's sidekick. Like, she should have her own movie.
Yeah, her character was badass, and it did seem like they had to tone her down so that way Pierce Brosnan could keep up with her.
Ooh, suck on it, Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, like, look, you're upstaging.
They had to dim her shine because he wasn't up to the challenge.
You are upstaging James Bond, so we're gonna have to like
you go, girl.
Tone it down a little bit.
That's because she's a legit martial artist.
Yeah.
And a dancer. Did you guys know she was a dancer before she became a martial artist?
Well, I didn't know she was a dancer.
Yeah.
She's got the dancer martial arts bod.
Right.
But also another movie where I don't think they should have slept together at the end of the movie. Like, fine, China and England team up to save the day. Why do they have to, you know, do that?
I wonder how China. I wonder if that had any implication, like, for its release back in the day.
You think it was like edited or something, or
I don't know, because you know how like now, especially nowadays, like Doctor Strange, they're not showing it in like Saudi Arabia.
Well,
There's several
is
places.
it China? There's somewhere over there they have some sort of rule about anything that involves like magic or mystic, like that they won't show over there.
Like Keanu Reeves mentioned support in Buddhist over there, and they banned one of his movies from being shown over there.
Is it the one where he played Buddha?
No, it's not that one. It was here recent. It was here some recent project. They were like, yeah, we're not going to show one of your movies. It's like, okay, like I'm a lot cooler than that. Whatever.
People will see my movies.
I do like that there's like an ex-girlfriend. They don't really do much with the Terry Hatcher character, but I like that sort of dynamic that they were trying to do with that. Like what happens to these women like after James Bond's no longer with them?
Yeah, because we haven't ever asked that question before now. We're always just like,
She slaps him and says, here's court papers. You owe me so much in back child support. Yeah. Yeah.
And I enjoy character actor who's no longer with us, Vincent Chevelle, as like a weird hitman. And I like the remote. Yeah. I like the remote car sequence, but this is kind of a forgettable Bond movie to me. Like, it is what it is.
It's an in-betweener. Like,
not an in-between.
It's an in-betweener. It's a filler.
You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I think The World Is Not Enough is actually one of the more interesting Bond movies. And I know that the whole Christmas Jones stuff is eye-rolling and gross and stupid. And I don't think that's Denise Richards' fault. I think that's the producers and the people behind the movie not giving that character. Actually, this movie doesn't need the character. Like the whole Sophie Marceau Electra King stuff is enough of a movie. And I like that they're like, oh, a female Bond villain. And like, what if Bond falls in love with her and then it turns out she's evil? Like, that's all interesting and really good.
Right.
Like, they didn't need the Denise Richards character. But what really is the problem is instead of like, oh, can you believe this hot chick is a nuclear physicist? Like, they should have just been like, it's a nuclear physicist who happens to be attractive, but instead they treat her like a Barbie doll. And it's like, oh, this hot chick's a nuclear physicist. That's just her accessory instead of her character.
I could see that. It was just eye candy.
Just got done dirty by the James Bond legacy like every other Bond girl.
Also, James Bond, that is sexual harassment, what you did to your doctor. That's sexual harassment, sir.
I'm convinced that they made her name that just so he could use that Christmas and turkey
joke.
Oh,
joke
not the last line?
What's that?
Not the last line in the movie? Ugh.
Yeah, that... Oh.
Also, I don't like... And I know being no disrespect to Mr. John Cleese, but I do not like the whole QR stuff either.
The QR, refresh my memory, Cody.
So this was Desmond Llewellyn's last film as Q. He actually sadly died in a car accident when this film was released, but this was going to be his last movie. He was retiring. And in the plot of the movie, John Cleese shows up as his replacement, and they're calling him R.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he should have just been... I mean, just like they're not going to retire the 007 number when Bond
Why would they retire the title?
Yeah.
Well, they don't when We Get to Die Another Day, but for whatever reason, that's like a joke in the movie. Doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
I do also enjoy that Robbie Coltrane's character from GoldenEye came back. That he's fun.
Yeah. I will give it on the VHS that I have of this. At the beginning, like maybe after the previews, they did a memorial to Q, and played Nobody Does It Better, which I thought was cool. And it was all the clips of Q, and it was like in memoriam, you know. So I'll give them that. I'll give them that. They, you know, that was sweet and touching.
But yeah, if you guys tell me you thought this Bond movie was dumb and gross and not cool, I understand. But I think the center plot line of this movie is doing some interesting things. It's just the shenanigans kind of get in the way, but like the M stuff's cool.
Yeah.
That's why Pierce Brosnan is Roger Moore 2.0.
Roger Moore Jr.
Except, you know, less of an endearing person.
Yeah, I don't know anything bad about Pierce Brosnan, but I haven't heard like the cool stories about him like I have about Roger Moore.
Oh, Pierce Brosnan's a pretty cool dude. Like,
okay, that's good.
No, I meant his character as James Bond in the. I got him.
He like he has had the same wife for ages, and people were fat shaming her. And he came up and was like, there was some story about like over the years, her friends of theirs were like, hey, why don't you get plastic surgery? Why don't you get lifts and tucks and everything?
And he said, why don't you mention?
And he was like, yeah, he was like, yeah, I love my wife the way she is. Y'all can kiss off, you know.
Good for him.
I tell you what, Pierce Brosnan and Hugh Jackman are extremely wholesome husbands, and I'm pretty sure that Keanu's about to join that.
Is he getting married?
He proposed to his girlfriend of the same age, and she said yes. So usually I could give two shits about that kind of stuff, but congratulations to Keanu Reeves. He deserves it.
Well, you know, like sidebarring and getting off topic, like he had a longtime girlfriend that died.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew he had, and she was pregnant, I believe, or no, they had a miscarriage, and that led to them.
And the same thing, Pierce Brosnan's first wife, who was in For Your Eyes Only, died.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I think they did this better in the Craig. Another thing they did better in the Craig era with the M stuff in Skyfall, and even a little bit with Bond in No Time to Die. But I think the core of this movie is a very good Bond movie. It just gets muddled, and I think this is a Bond movie you got to watch from the beginning, because if you catch this Bond movie in the middle, you're going to be like, what is this crap?
Right.
This is one you got to watch from the beginning, and then you'll be like, oh, this actually is kind of good. Or at least to me, I think this is
not bad. It's not bad at all. Like, and I played the video games of these movies back in the day too, and they were really good.
I think this is one of the most underrated ones.
Right.
And all these movies did very well financially, even though a lot of people like to poop on the Brosnan era now. Like, they made money.
Oh, it did, because it was 90s. It was of its time, and they were big ballsy explosion actiony 90s movies, and people ate that stuff up. It was like almost pre-Michael Bay, you know, type stuff going on in these movies.
But they did give Brosnan a raw deal. I think it was a weird transitional period because Albert Broccoli died, and then his daughter and stepson, who have been involved in the franchise for a long time now, are now like the holders of it. And I don't think they quite knew where to take the franchise yet.
Right.
And so we get all these weird, like, I always feel like the Brosnan era is not sure if it wants to be Roger Moore. Does it want to be Sean Connery? Like, it's very conflicting between the two styles.
Right.
And then we get, and I didn't watch it again, so you guys let me know.
This is by far one of the worst. Not only Bond movies, but Bond themes. Let's get to the theme. We'll start with the theme. I'm a huge fan of these Bond themes. Okay, I like a good theme, even the ones that reflect the times, with the disco themes, the crooner themes,
Soul.
Duran Duran, you know, the 80s synth pop themes. And then we have Madonna. Now, don't get me wrong.
Oh, okay. Don't make it about Madonna now.
It's not about Madonna. It's honestly, it's not a Madonna problem. It's a theme problem. If she had covered a different theme, who knows? It might have been better, you know. And it's not the fact that Madonna did the theme. It was the theme itself just sucked, like really badly. It was like this weird techno pop song, and it already didn't fit the movie. And then you get this horse shit of a movie like after it.
It's ridiculous. There's an invisible car. This is on par with any of the stuff you don't like in the Roger Moore era. This movie might be even worse.
It's like, hey, we're going to take all the shitty parts out of all the other movies and we're going to combine them and make this one movie.
Maybe that's what everybody likes about James Bond. Let's make that the whole movie.
Yeah. But let's see. And this was 2002.
2002. They're like...
Personally, when I saw it in the theater, that I remember. Because I remember the invisible car.
Because I remember going to see it in Jacksonville and I come out of there like, what in the hell did I just watch? Like, this is the first Bond movie that I walked out of feeling kind of like wronged, I guess.
Like you wanted your money back for the first time?
And that's 2002 me didn't know any better because if 2002 me had gone back and watched the previous Brosnan Bonds, I probably would have been like, well, what the hell did I just watch? But I actually liked those at the time, and I still kind of do, more for nostalgia, but this movie was just not good. The puns were not good. Halle Berry's character was not good. The villain,
and it's a shame because this is her post-Oscar win movie, and they wanted to do a spin-off with her character, but they don't know what to do. They don't give her a very good character. Then they try to mimic the Dr. No scene in this one.
And they give her the puns are just one after the other. Like it's hard to advance a story or progress in a story or any kind of dialogue when all of your puns are just like one after the other. Now there's one concept in this that I did kind of like, and that's where at the beginning where he's captured and they're like, oh, we don't know who he is. It's the whole scorched earth thing. Like, if you get caught, we don't know who you are.
Yeah,
so he gets thrown in a Chinese prison for however many years. And
North Korean.
It's North Korean, yeah.
Oh, North Korea. I'm sorry. My bad.
That's why.
And that was a topical thing to be doing at the time. Well, I guess it could still be topical, but like in 2002 to do that in a big franchise movie.
Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, the bad guy's just gonna change his face and look like a white dude, and it's like, what?
Yeah. Whitewash him much, huh?
Yeah. Wow.
But
that's ridiculous. But yeah, the opening's actually kind of interesting, and then like, what does that do to Bond? And like now he's on a kind of a revenge mission, but then this movie keeps going, and then also the only actor I think that gives a legit good performance, and you want to get cringy on age difference, Rosamund Pike is almost 25 years younger than Pierce Brosnan.
Oh.
Yeah. There's definitely a father-daughter resemblance almost. That's really creepy.
Yeah. Oh.
But she's really good. I like her in this movie. She's like the only actor that kind of comes out of this like, oh, you gave a good performance despite how bad this movie is.
Yeah.
And why is Michael Madsen the CIA guy? That was weird casting.
Yeah, that whole movie just felt off. Like even it really was a dud for Pierce Brosnan's last outing.
It's a shame that's his last movie. And then when they get into figuring out how to progress the franchise from this. Because, they almost did Casino Royale as a throwback movie with Tarantino directing with Brosnan in the lead. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. We want to go with a younger actor. So they basically called Brosnan on the phone and were like, we're going in a different direction. Thank you for being James Bond, but we need a younger face.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And I don't think, I'm kind of glad that what's his name didn't direct any Star Trek. You just mentioned him, Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, I am too. I mean, I know he's a fan, but I don't want him doing a Star Trek movie.
I meant Bond, but Star Trek.
I don't want him doing a Bond movie either.
Yeah, I don't want him doing any. He needs to stay in his lane. And I hate saying that. That sounds gatekeepy. But there are certain directors that are better off just staying, doing the genre that they are best at. Like I don't mind him branching out, but
I think he's just one of those that would be too noticeable. Like, okay, if this is like a one-off or Elseworld type of thing, okay, but like just in general, like his style is too much. Like he wouldn't like just blend into the franchise, right? It would be obviously noticeable.
Right. And his style doesn't fit that genre, I don't think. His style, the way he does things, he'd want to make an R-rated Star Trek. And I'm sorry, I hate to sound old fogey. Star Trek does not need to be R-rated in the reasons that he would make it R-rated. If it were ever R-rated, it would be because more of a horror factor, like with some gore and some alien that's taking out the crew or something. Not Star Trek doesn't need all the profane language or the sex or the things that he likes to put in his movies. And I think that stuff's good, but they fit his movies more. You don't need that stuff to tell a good story in Star Trek. Or even in James Bond. It doesn't need that type of direction that he lends to his movies. And I'm not saying they're bad, but he just needs to leave those alone.
Yeah, that's also probably why he never like really pursued it either. Like it was just more of like, oh, a cool idea, but then like, no, I'd rather just do my own thing.
Right. I'm glad too.
So that's the end of James Bond. Sorry, it was kind of on a whimper, but we just kind of packed them all into one. So we got some good, the bad, and the ugly of James Bond.
Right. And I'm sorry that they did take an extra week to release these two, but we got through them. And so we're getting ready to head into Star Wars, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. The wars.
It's the 25th today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to cover. Now we're going to do by trilogy, right? So we want to just cover.
If we do that, but are we also going to cover the two standalones that are kind of gapped in between?
I would like to. Would you want to start with those? You want to lead with those, or do we want to do them kind of?
Well, if you want to do chronologically, we gotta go with the prequel trilogy.
Right. Let's do that way because we're gonna watch them. That's the way we're gonna watch them here, and so yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay, so yeah, this Sunday we'll be covering the much divided, somewhat reclaimed in some circles, George Lucas's prequel trilogy of Star Wars.
Right. There will be lots of criticism. I totally understand it, and I see the criticism, and I welcome it with open arms because everybody's different. Like I am a staunch defender of these movies. I know. I get made fun of it for it, but I am a staunch defender in these movies, and I know I throw shade at the newer trilogy, but it's I'm mainly being facetious. Like I do think there are issues, but I also recognize that introduced a new group of fans, and I can totally appreciate that. I know there are kids out there who really dig those movies, and I'm happy.
And you have kids
because
that dig the newest movies.
Yeah, the way that I view the original trilogy, watching them for the first time on my TV, and then getting to see the special editions in the theater when they were re-released, and so on with A New Hope, and the Phantom Menace, and the prequel trilogies, like that all just came out at a time in my life it was huge. It was a big deal to me. So I get it. It impacted a new generation of fans just like it did me. So I'm really going to try to be. I will be critical, but I'm really going to try not to just dog on it the way I know I can. I know I have to watch myself on that, but anyway, we're going to get into it. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I've been kind of waiting for these through the holidays. Like I know May was coming up. I knew that Star Wars is a big deal to nerds like us, so it'll be interesting to get into. It'll be fun.
All right then. So we leave the world of James Bond for now. No telling when he returns, or maybe she.
Right? Yeah, we never know. I would like to see a spinoff of Moneypenny becoming taking over the 00 title and becoming the new 007. I thought that would have been really cool.
And then we get into a far, far galaxy far away. We'll see where opinions differ, combined, all in between.
Also, real quick, Cody, do we have 2 more reviews coming up?
We do. Since we didn't do one last week, I am just gonna roll the 2. We're gonna end the Ridley Scott 90s run with White Squall and G.I. Jane this weekend. We'll just get that out of the way, and we'll do All the Money in the World at a different time with a different movie.
G.I. Jane. Haven't seen that since my VHS days, guys. That'll be interesting. But all right, those will be 2 interesting movies. I really enjoy White Squall. Again, I was in the Boy Scouts growing up, and they have a thing called Sea Scouts that I was always interested in. But we are inland, of course, and I never got to do anything like that. And I've always liked ships and stuff, so I don't know. It was a decent movie. I liked it. A good coming of age movie. So hopefully you like it as much as I do.
Yeah, it'll be a first time watch for me. So
cool.
We'll see how it works. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you tune in, sorry we kind of powered through these 7 movies, but we did them in about the runtime I was hoping, so that's good.
yeah, we made it. So, all right, guys. We'll see you this weekend. Would you say Saturday, Cody, on those?
Saturday for Ridley Scott. I'm guessing Saturday evening is going to be a good time for you guys. Maybe Saturday night. I don't know. Let me know.
I think probably Saturday night. Do you work this Saturday?
I do work Saturday.
Okay.
That's what I was figuring.
So and you get off at what time?
6.
Yeah, it'll be 6. She gets off at 6 on Saturday. So unless we have a guest, I can do it earlier if
we don't have a guest. Jessica's going to join us to talk G.I. Jane, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
So we'll be watching that for our anniversary on Friday night when she gets home.
Oh, yeah. Happy
anniversary.
Yeah. And her birthday was this last weekend, right?
Oh, well, her birthday was a month ago, but we went and visited with friends who wanted to celebrate her birthday. So she got to celebrate her birthday again.
Well,
double
cool.
birthday.
Yeah, double birthday.
Yeah.
Everybody should get 2 birthdays in 2022.
I was sitting there, I was like, I thought we just wished her a happy birthday like not too long ago. But maybe
time's not
if
real.
it's her birthday again, happy birthday! Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, well, cool guys. Thanks for joining us, Cody and Lindsay. Thanks for joining. I'm glad that you were off today and able to join. So, and we'll see you again here in a couple of days.
Yep. All right. Thanks for watching. And again, sorry if you wanted more in depth on these James Bond movies, but when you got to talk 7 movies, you just kind of got to give a rundown of your opinion.
Right.
So enjoy the rest of your day. If you're in Texas, I guess it's a nice day to watch some movies or read a book.
Yeah. We do not have to leave the house today, so that's a very refreshing. It's rainy and drizzly, and it's nice and cool out for a change. So we have our windows open.
And all the semis are celebrating by driving in front of our house.
Yeah,
before summer hits. All
right. With all the semis. But, all right, guys.
Thanks for watching. Bye.